Welcome to the Inspired by Her Story podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin Casso, travel and brand photographer and the founder of Caitlin Casso Creations, where I share other women's stories through my photographs and now this podcast. Inspired by Her Story is a podcast dedicated to inspiring, motivating, encouraging, and empowering women to get out of their comfort zones and follow their dreams. Whether it's owning their own business, experiencing something new, or making a major life change, I want to encourage other women to follow their dreams and live their lives to the fullest. Throughout this podcast, I will be sharing my own stories and those of inspirational women with hopes to let souls connect and adventures to unwind. Follow along as I take you with me during my travels, experiences, and encounters with these amazing women. Do you ever dream about quitting your job and just travel the world? I certainly have. It honestly is a possibility for me one day, but Thais took that possibility and turned it into a reality. I was lucky enough to meet Thais when I was photographing a yoga retreat in Costa Rica and felt so inspired once I heard her story that I knew I had to share it with the world. Join us as we sit in the middle of the jungle, animals and all, as Thais shares her story and how she left her 9-to-5 job to travel the world and truly live her life to the fullest. All right, so I am here with Thais, and I actually met her while I'm here in Costa Rica on a yoga retreat. And we actually did a hike to a waterfall with everyone, and Thais was able to join us.
Yes, I did. It was so nice.
She is actually volunteering right now at the resort that we're staying at in Uvita, Costa Rica. And after having some great conversations, I asked her if she would be on the podcast so that I could share her story with everyone else. I'd like to kind of start off before we get into what you're currently doing with traveling and maybe talk about how you got here today. So what you were doing before you started to start traveling the world.
All right. So I'm from Brazil, and I'm graduated in international relations. And I used to have a job at a corporation, like corporate life, daily office. And then I decided to quit and start traveling.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so what made you decide to start traveling? And I know you are currently doing with your husband, so it wasn't just yourself that had to make the decision, but the both of you had to decide together.
Yeah, well, I feel like I always had this inside of me. I always wanted to travel around the world, and it was something that, for me, every time that I would see a story of someone that was doing that, it would be like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I wish I could do it. But I always thought this was very hard, that you needed to have a lot of money, and it was just something that was kind of out of my reality. And suddenly, I don't know why, I was having my life and working, and I started to think about it more. I think it was after I graduated, and a lot of friends of mine, they would congratulate me and say, you have the world in front of you, you should enjoy every opportunity that you have. I know you like to travel, you should just travel the world. And I started thinking, why not?
Yeah.
And then I started to kind of plan this trip, trying to figure out how much money I would need to do that, and where would I go, because the world is so big. And then I met Gustavo. And I had this idea already, but I was like, okay, now I don't know what I do because I really like him. And I decided to share this plan and dream that I had with him. And he said, okay, let's go.
Oh, that is so awesome.
So we started to really planning then. We started to build like a budget to every country that we would go and how much money we thought we needed. And then we figured out that there are a lot of people that do that, and they create blogs. So if you search for the information, you can find their platforms like Lonely Planet, where they estimate how much you would spend in every country that we would go to.
Okay.
So we started planning, and we decided to leave Brazil and travel the world.
Yeah, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
And how did each of your families feel about that when you made the decision?
Well, in the beginning, they were a bit scared of our decision. Not only practically scared about what would happen to us, but also about our future, because we got married and then we started traveling, and most people don't do that. And how are they going to survive? And what if they want to have kids and all of that? But I've been always very comfortable with my decision, and something inside of me always felt like this was the right thing to do. And I just could transmit this to them, so they were comfortable and safe enough. And now they always love where we go, and they've been so proud of us. My mom talks to all of her friends like, oh, my daughter's traveling and all that.
Oh, that's so great.
So yeah, it's been amazing.
Awesome. They're nice and supportive.
Yes, totally. And I think this is very important as well, because otherwise it would be harder for us if we didn't have a backup plan. Like if something happens to us, and if we happen to decide that we don't want to travel any longer, we know that we have a family in Brazil that would support us if we want to return. We have a house that we can stay at until we find a job or something. And that's very good. And it feels good to know that we have that.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a little backup plan just in case if you need it.
Totally.
And so now, where did you start for your travels?
We started in South America. At first, we actually had a wedding in Brazil that we needed to return to, so we had only 4 months. So we went to Peru, and we planned to go down all the way to Brazil, because I'm from the southern part of Brazil. So we went to Peru, and we went down to Bolivia, to Chile, to Argentina and Uruguay, back to Brazil. And from then, we planned to go to Asia, actually, but we fell in love completely with South America, that we attended the wedding and we bought a ticket to Colombia. So we continued to explore this wonderful continent that we love. So we went to Colombia. From there, we went to Mexico, Guatemala, and now we're here in Costa Rica.
Oh, that's so awesome. And so how long has it been so far?
Well, we left Brazil actually in June last year.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's going to be a year.
Wow.
But we returned to Brazil for this wedding, and we were there for 2 or 3 months. So in total, it's been 8 or 9 months.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Yeah.
And so how do you make it through each country? So I know here you're volunteering at the resort. So tell us a little bit about what you do in each country in order to, make a living of some sort or have somewhere to stay.
Yeah. So in the beginning, when we started, we didn't know about what we would do. So we thought we would just go from hostel to hostel and just traveling like we knew. And once you start to meet all of those travelers, you always learn that there's a different way of traveling. So we usually do 2 platforms for now that help us traveling. One of them is couch surfing that we do a lot. So it's a platform that connects travelers and people that want to help travelers. Locals open their houses for you.
Oh, cool.
And they host you for 1 night or 5 nights, depends. And we love doing that. Most of the great experience that we had traveling were through couch surfing, because it's so genuine. It's just someone that is opening up their houses because they want to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Either because they were travelers before and they were helped, or because they want to practice another language, or because they want to just know who you are.
Yeah.
And you share this amazing experience with this person, and we've been loving doing it so much.
Mm-hmm.
And we also do work away, which is volunteering. So it's another platform that you find all of these volunteering opportunities throughout the world, and usually you work for exchange for accommodation and food, or just accommodation. And I mean, this of course makes the trip cheaper. That's kind of why we got into it, but actually it makes our traveling way better, because we get to meet people, we get to get into their lifestyle a little bit and see how they live their lives, and it's so different than the ways that we do, and that totally changes our perspective about everything. So it's always a lot of learning.
Yeah. You really get to kind of dig into their culture and live the way that they live every day.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes it's just a few things. Like here in Costa Rica, before coming here, we were in San Jose, and we couch surfed at a house of a Costa Rican, and she was a dentist, and she had a regular life, a lot like the one that we had, but someone told her about couch surfing, so she decided it was going to be a good thing for her because she had a spare room in her house. So she decided to host travelers, and we were talking to her, and she happens to work for 3 weeks a month, and she always has this 1 week to focus on her.
Wow.
And
that's
this
awesome.
is something that I loved. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool that you decided to live this way. And those little things that those people that you meet, and you get to know something about their lives, and that changes you. It's already something that I would love to do when I return to Brazil.
Exactly. It's kind of like a little piece of everyone that you end up meeting along the way
Yes.
might end up inside of you after.
Yes, totally. That's all traveling is about, actually.
Yeah. And what's cool too, thinking about like if I were to be a host of the couch surfing, it's almost like they get the same effects as someone who is doing the couch surfing, because they're learning from you while you're learning from them.
Yes, it's a way of traveling without leaving your home.
Yeah, exactly. That is so cool.
It's very cool.
And now I know that a lot of the volunteer work that you've done too have been at hotels and resorts.
Yes.
So you kind of get a mix of being around people who live in that country or that area, but then you also get people like me who are traveling through, and you get to meet them and learn more about them.
Yeah.
So how do you feel? Do you feel like one or the other you've kind of learned more about?
Well, it actually depends, because it depends on the experience that you're going to have, and you always learn something. But I would have to say that with locals, you usually open up more of you widen a little bit more of your view of things, because they are just living their lives, and you kind of get into that way of living.
Yeah.
And it's been so cool because they are always so welcoming, and they just want to show you everything that they do and how they do things. And therefore the travelers, they are already out of their comfort zones, and they are like you. So you usually exchange a lot of experience, but the real thing you usually live with locals. Yeah,
Definitely.
That's been very transformative.
I can only imagine, especially traveling from country to country too, and seeing how different they live compared to the last country you were in.
Yeah, totally.
That is awesome. Do you have a favorite experience that you've had so far while traveling?
Wow. That's a very hard
I'm sure there's lots.
Yeah. I would say that mostly the great experience that we've had, they were all about people. Like we did another volunteering work in Peru, and we helped a Peruvian family with their handcraft work.
Mm-hmm.
So we were at their house, they were hosting us, and we helped them to cut all of those belts and clothing and stuff. And you could see that they were very humble. They were this humble traditional family from Peru. And they welcomed us to their family with their arms wide open. We felt so good, like since the first second that we got there. And it's crazy, because they didn't know us, they didn't know who we were, and they totally opened up their lives to us.
Yeah.
And you could see like they usually ate a lot of rice and potatoes and all of that, but sometimes they would eat meat or something that was more expensive, let's say. And you could see one day like they were preparing the plates to bring to us to the table, and you could see that like the best slices of meat they would give to us.
Aww.
And you see that and you leave that and you think like, how come someone would do this for me? Like they don't even know me, they don't know who I am, but they don't care. They just want to make you feel nice, and they want to help you, and they want to, I think that something that I've been discovering a lot is that the energy that you put in the world is going to return to you.
Yeah.
And we've been feeling that because we've been having a lot of great experiences, and we try to always do good things and always invite people when we're eating and make friends, and somehow this is returning to us.
Yeah.
So
100%.
yeah, it's all about people and the connections that you make.
Exactly. I think that's the best part of traveling is who you meet along the way too.
Yes.
It just makes for the whole experience.
Totally.
Do you feel like traveling has helped you connect more with yourself or maybe even others?
Yes, totally. I think traveling, it's all about self-discovery. Like there were so many things that I didn't know that I liked or that I disliked, because I was always taught to be this person and to like those things. And when you start traveling, you actually test if you like or not.
Yeah.
Like being here, like being out here in the nature, in the middle of the jungle in Costa Rica. It's something that I would never think I would be here.
Yeah. I agree. Me too.
Yeah. And it's something that you actually test if you like this or not. Because we have so many ideas in our minds that we think we would like this or that, but like museums, for example, like you always have this, that when you go to a place that there's a good museum, you have to go and you have to like it.
Yeah.
And sometimes like we go to those places where people usually love, and those traveling websites, they always say you can't miss this, and we go and then we think, maybe we didn't like it that much. And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's totally fine for you to not like something that everyone likes, or for you to like more something that nobody appreciates that much, because it's all about discovering who you are and what you like. And that's, I think, the most important thing that you need to do, because you need to get to know yourself. And this is something that you can do always. You don't need to travel to do that. But I feel that traveling, this is gets more intense, because as I said, you're testing everything. But you should just try to not be very judgmental to things, and always try to forgive yourself and try to analyze and observe if you like something, if you don't like, or food, for example, because we've been always eating the same kind of food. And what if you actually don't like what you've been eating your whole life?
Yeah.
And that's the most amazing thing about traveling.
You never know until you try something. That's what I always think.
Yes, totally, totally.
And that kind of even leads into something that I like to talk a lot about is getting out of your comfort zone. And of course, just by you guys deciding to quit your jobs and travel, that in itself is getting out of your comfort zone. But do you feel like there has been a certain situation that really sticks out to you, that really made you get out of your comfort zone during this so far?
I think what made us get out of our comfort zone the most was deciding to travel, because it was very hard, because people expect things out of you, especially living in big cities like we were living in Sao Paulo, and people expect you to work and get a real job. And for us to decide that we were going to travel and just tell that to all of our friends and quit our jobs, this was something that we needed to be very certain about. And it was totally getting out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
But you actually don't need much to do that. You just need a little bit, and then when you start, after we did that, we felt like we were ready for everything.
Yeah.
So that's very good. Sometimes you just need to take the first step, and things start to happen to you.
Yeah, and I'm sure after you've also made it through like one country or something, you're like, okay, we know what we're doing now. We got this. We can keep going.
Yes, totally. And you're always learning.
And so now, what kind of hopes do you have for your future with this?
That's a hard one as well. Well, I don't think we'll be traveling forever. But for now, we don't feel the urge of stopping traveling. So we want to continue to go to different continents. At first, we thought we were going to travel for a year, but it's been almost a year and we haven't left Latin America. So there's a lot still, and we want to explore. We're very curious about the other part of the world, like Asia and all of these different cultures and all of that. But I kind of hope that I find something that I can root myself somewhere and do something that I love. Because I used to like a lot what I did for my work, but I didn't live the life that I wanted. I was living the life that I was always waiting for Friday and then waiting for my vacations. And I want to somehow live in a place that I'm always on vacations, kind of. You know how I said that you always meet people that change your life? And we met a girl in Mexico. She was from Germany, and she was living at her van and working in Mexico, and she told us her story. She was from Germany. In there, she used to work for a multinational company and make a lot of money. And she loves to surf. But she was waiting the whole year, working for 11 months so she could surf for 1 month. And she said that something was wrong about that. So she decided to move to Mexico. She bought a van, and she was working online for like about 20 hours a week. And she said like she does not have the same income. She works a lot less, but she gets to surf every day and not waiting for the whole year to do something that she loves. So I kind of hope that I find my place in the world, and I find something that I love doing, and that I can be able to do that and to make a living out of it. So I hope I find something.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Out of all of the places that you've been to so far, do you have a favorite?
Well, I think I actually met last year a couple, and they had been in Brazil. I met them, and they had been to 60 countries in the world.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of asked the same question by then, because I was about to depart to travel. And he said something that I now understand. He said that it's not about the places, but about the experiences. And he actually said that his favorite place was Iran.
Oh, wow.
And that for me sounded very strange, and I did not understand very well. And he said that the people that they met there completely changed their lives. So I don't think it's about the place, but actually about the experience and the people that you meet. So you always need to be open. Sometimes we expect a lot about places, and when we get there, it's not exactly how we thought it would be. And sometimes the places that we expect the least, and we think it would just be a place that we can, like, logistically it makes sense, and then when we get there it completely blows us,
Yeah.
So
It's almost like no expectations going somewhere, because you just got to take it as it comes to you.
Totally. Yeah.
I always say too, I've come to realize, especially in the past year or so, that it's not always about like where you're going, but a lot of times it's also who you're traveling with too. If you're not traveling by yourself, it's even like who you're traveling with, who you meet along the way.
Yes.
Because actually I came to Costa Rica back when I was in college, and I didn't have a great experience that first time. It was with school, and it wasn't the best experience. And so I didn't have Costa Rica wasn't in my heart because of that. And then, so now this is my second time coming here, and now I have a completely different viewpoint of Costa Rica because of the experience I had this week.
Cool.
And the people that I was with, like who I traveled with, and the people that I met, like you.
Yeah.
So it's been such a different, eye-opening experience, and I don't think it always has to be where it is, but just who you meet and what you're doing, and
Totally.
it's awesome. It's life-changing.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah. And so if there were anybody else looking to do this, do you have any sort of piece of advice you would give them?
Something else that we discovered while traveling is that you should not spend any day of your life if not being happy. So even us, sometimes we're volunteering and we go to places that we meet people that we don't connect that much, or places that we are working too much and it's being too heavy, or people that have a heavy energy, and we think, are we happy? Because if we're not, we should move. And I think that I wasn't that happy when I was working, and you should not miss one day of your life not being happy. So if you feel that you have this eager inside of you to travel and to get out of your comfort zone and to discover the world and to meet people, or to just do anything that you feel inside of you, you should follow your intuition and try to be happy, because life is too short and the world, it's amazing. There are a lot of places like this place that we're at now, and they are waiting for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So you should totally just start packing and start planning. When you get into it, you always find blogs and find stories of people that have been doing this, and you know that it's not that hard. And anyone can do that. If you plan, you don't need to have a lot of money, you don't need to have a lot of courage, you just need to feel that your heart wants to do that. And if you hear this calling, then you're good to go.
Oh, I love it. You have definitely inspired me, because this has been something I have always thought about doing myself. So
Cool.
that advice is even great for me to hear. And where can people find you online to also follow your travels too?
Okay, so we have an Instagram account. Our Instagram is Tata and Goose, which is our names. So you could always look for it. It's at THATA, which is my nickname, Tata. E, the letter E, Goose, US.
Okay, awesome. I hope everybody follows along because I definitely will be.
Perfect. Thank you very much. It was so nice meeting you.
Oh.
And you also inspired me because you are trying to do something that can help people, and that's always genuine. And I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's so great being able to meet you. And I'm so happy that you said yes to doing this podcast and sharing your story.
It was an honor to meet.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to the Inspired by Her Story podcast. I hope you found some inspiration, motivation, encouragement, and empowerment to get out of your comfort zone and live your life to the fullest. Make sure to hit subscribe, share with a friend, and take these stories with you to make the changes in your life that you've been looking for. Follow me on Instagram at Caitlin Casso and even check out my work at CaitlinCasso.com. Stay tuned for the next Inspired by Her Story episode.